Welcome to the verse-by-verse study of the book of Proverbs. We shall finish chapter 19 today, and beginning with verse 15. Laziness brings on deep sleep, and the shiftless go hungry. In the book of Proverbs, laziness is mentioned over 14 times, 14 different proverbs. And it's always a sign of foolishness. Is someone that has the capacity but lacks the personal responsibility and diligence. They just don't care. They always make the easy decision versus the right decision. They are only concerned about the present and have no real regard for the future consequences. God's wisdom teaches that doing what's right first, the first time, avoids heartache and headache in the future. This verse also is warning that someone that's lazy, continued to be lazy, engaged in laziness, brings on a deep sleep, which means laziness begets laziness. Deep sleep means that you end up living a life in a dull fog. And you go hungry, which means anxiety, because you are missing out on an abundant life, abundant opportunities. And God, like any loving parent, wants his children to live not a life like that, not to live a life that has been wasted, a life of sadness. Whoever keeps commandments keeps their life, but whoever shows contempt or carelessness for their ways will die. Again, the author is making a contrast between the fool and the wise. The fool carelessly throws his life away, while the wise listen to God's wisdom and therefore inherit an abundant life. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. The verse is telling us that whoever is kind to the poor is actually making a temporary loan, a loan that God is guaranteeing repayment. And that repayment would include a handsome reward or bonus. God is promising that kindness to the poor is making a sound investment that will be rewarded. We cannot outgive God. Discipline your children, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to their death. To discipline means that we are to invest in our kids, invest time and instruction into our children. Parents are called to give our children what all children need, which is hope and core values. God's wisdom provides both. It provides them confidence and instructions for the future. And to abandon that responsibility means that you are robbing that child of that wisdom and therefore a willing party to that child's future headache and heartaches. Without that wisdom, Proverbs warns that child likely would turn out to be selfish, dishonest, lazy, quick-tempered, fool, or a mocker, as we shall see in the next verse. A hot-tempered person must pay the penalty. Rescue them, and you will have to do it all over again. That person that is quick to anger, quick-tempered, lacks the core value of patience. They pridefully believe that they have no faults. They only can see faults in others. And with that type of child, you can go to the police station and bail them out. But that does not solve the underlying root cause of their foolishness or their lack of wisdom, which means the verse is saying you sadly will have to bail them out again and again throughout their lives. Listen to the advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise. Until that child first listens, and then secondly, most importantly, accepts godly wisdom, he or she will remain a fool. They will remain foolish. To accept means that wisdom has traveled the 18 inches from their brain to the heart. The heart is the place of our motivation and therefore our desires and our actions, as noted in the next verse 21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but It is the Lord's purpose that prevails. We all have plans and desires in our hearts. We want to be wealthy in order to have a good life. We desire to marry a good spouse. We plan to lose weight to look good. We plan for good outcomes. But where does good truly come from? That's the question. True happiness, contentment, peace, and fulfillment only comes from God. You and I are to lean on Him because His plans are so much better than our plans. His plans are always good and always prevail. What a person desires is unfailing love, or also translated kindness. Better to be poor than a liar. The syntax of the NIV here translation is a bit awkward. The New King James Version does a bit better job. What is desired in a man is kindness, in a separate statement, and a poor man is better than a liar. The verse is saying what truly makes a person desirable or attractive is a sincere heart of kindness. Kindness means they put love into action, not just words. If there's one quality we should seek in a spouse or in our child or in ourselves, it's kindness, putting love into action sincerely. And the verse also has a different slant. It has a repeated warning. It says, in life, you would be more blessed to choose to be an honest poor man, following God's wisdom, than being a dishonest, rich, liar, fool, which is the point of the next verse. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. The NIV translation actually adds that verb, leads to. There's actually not a verb in the original text. So the literal translation would be, the fear of the Lord is life. We are to live a life that respects God and His wisdom. And if we do that, there is a godly promise of blessings and an abundant life. It says that we will be untouched by trouble. That means that we'll be untouched by the trouble that walking without God's wisdom always brings. Next, they return to laziness. A sluggard buries his hands in the dish. He will not even bring it back to his mouth. The point of the verse is that the habit of laziness leads in a dark place. We can reach a point where the lack of motivation just keeps building to even the point of lifting. We have no motivation even to lift a spoon of food to our mouth. We expect someone else to hand feed us. Where verse 25 actually lists the three attitudes towards God that are outlined throughout the book of Proverbs. Flog a mocker, and the simple will learn prudence. Rebuke the discerning, and they will gain knowledge. The mocker is mentioned 17 times in Proverbs. They are the proud. They aggressively reject God. They reject His wisdom, His followers, and especially reject His instructions. Next, we have the simple or the fool. They are the majority and are mentioned over 60 times in Proverbs. They're the folks that just don't care. They're totally indifferent to God. And lastly, we have the wise, which here is called the discerning. The verse is warning us about our choices and the consequences of those choices. For those that reject God, that are mockers, that are hostile to God, it will not end well. The only good, perhaps, that can come from them is that the simple, the fool, may learn some prudence from seeing the negative consequences of the bad choices of the mocker. Whoever robs their father and drives out their mother is a child who brings shame and disgrace. Again, this is a repeated theme. Our bad choices impact not only ourselves, but those that are closest to us. Stop listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. So the author has given us an encouragement to choose wisdom, that the wise, as opposed to the foolish, listen and accept God's instructions, and therefore gain a life of godly knowledge, a lifetime of godly knowledge, and its blessings. The last two verses address this mocker and the fool. A corrupt witness mocks at justice, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down evil. Penalties are prepared for the mocker, and beatings for the backs of fools. One of the characteristics of both the mocker and the fool is this disregard for the law, God's law and civil law. The mocker thinks he's better and smarter and above the law. And the fool just has no discipline and doesn't care. He does what feels good at the time and does not worry about the consequences until it's too late. God warns that there's justice for both. That ends chapter 19. We will begin chapter 20 next week. Until then, may God bless you and your family with both grace and peace. Aloha.